so much power in your email list. And I know people who feel like, oh, people feel, I don't know if I should send it because, they get so many. And I know people say it doesn't matter, send it anyway.
Exactly.
People
and especially if you are a good brand.
Yes.
Like if people love your brand, come on. Like they want to hear from you. Don't email them every day with, what you had for breakfast.
This is Girl Take Note, a podcast for women who are looking to turn their dreams into reality. Hey, Kat, welcome to the Girl Take Note podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. How are you?
Good. Before we get started, I feel like I'm just one color. You know that? Like,
nope,
I didn't even notice that before we started.
I didn't notice either.
Okay, they don't even matter. But anyways, Kat, so I read up some stuff about you, and you have kind of like a fascinating backstory growing up with your dad in telemarketing schemes, which you're very open about. So kind of tell me, how did that experience shape your approach to marketing and business ethics today?
Sure. I mean, gosh, how did it not? And I think as I get further in my career as an entrepreneur, it's even more impactful, right?
Yeah.
I spent about 10 years working in financial tech. And when you're working corporate, it's a lot easier to just kind of plug and go. You just, cog in the wheel. Right. But, I'll just start at the beginning. So yes, my father was one of the very first telemarketing scammers, if you will.
Yeah.
He, in the late 80s, early 90s, was running a call center in San Antonio, Texas, and then training other call centers on how to sell vitamins, quote, vitamins, to the elderly. And you'd call them up and say, hey, congratulations, you won a fur coat. You won a free cruise. And all you have to do is pay shipping and handling for these vitamins, which are also wonderful. Here's why you want them, right? We know it all too well at this point. Yeah. So that was his shtick. And, one, defrauding the elderly. But two, he was then defrauded himself, not surprisingly, by his CFO, took all of his money, and he wasn't able to pay his bills. He very quickly found himself working next to the Mexican mob in order to in order to use credit card processing machines to be able to take those over the phone. The FDA had already figured him out. The FTC then gets involved and says, you don't have access to these sorts of partnerships any longer. And so he wasn't able to pay them. And so he ran as quickly as he could out of state with my pregnant mom with me. And that's really how I got started, which is, very juicy. very
juicy, very dangerous.
I know, right? I know. And, it's not surprising. I learned all of the details as I got older and started asking questions of my mom. It's not that surprising looking back and knowing who my dad was, a genius, super smart.
Definitely that.
You have to be, right? In sales in general, you don't really have a choice. You have to be really suave and have it together. But I just started thinking, man, if he had used his powers for good instead of being so shisty, what could he have done?
Yeah.
And that's, I carry that with me every day as I'm building and scaling and trying to create new programs for others like me. How do I fancy myself not a manipulator, but a good communicator. Yeah. And, a lot of that I got. Yeah. You grow up poor. You grow up with a shiesty father. You learn a few things about people. And so that's really where I'm at now as I'm building my business in digital marketing. How do I build this ironically on the foundations and on the shoulders of those came before me, but in a very, very different way?
Yeah, because you know why? A lot of that is that persuasive marketing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So he was very good at being able to sell and being able to persuade people to know that they needed something, right? So that's always a good trait to have, especially when you're going to sell digital marketing and stuff like that. So what inspired you to transition into digital marketing and how did it lead to your journey to founding Profesh?
Sure. So like I said, I spent about 10 years in financial tech. It was a very, very niche industry. So I worked for a company that did taxes and payroll, HR compliance for families who are hiring nannies, caregivers, for the very, very wealthy. They were hiring chauffeurs and gardeners and, anybody working in their home.
Yeah.
They had to pay them legally. And so one, great value to work for a company that helps you do that.
Yeah.
And my whole skill I developed there was learning how to take these really, really complicated topics like tax and payroll law and helping families, because at the end of the day, these were all just moms and dads hiring, someone to help with their newborn or, someone to drive them around. They don't realize, oh my gosh, I'm an employer now. What do I do?
Yeah.
And so I honed that skill over 10 years and then through moving into a leadership role with them. And like many of us around 2020, I got really burnt out. I'd already been there for almost 10 years. And, I didn't quit right then. I left 2 years later in 2022. But I just started thinking, gosh, I'm in my early 30s.
Yeah.
How am I so burnt out already? How am I thinking like how am I going to make it to retirement in one piece? Right?
Yeah.
Oh, and what amount of money is worth it? Like that's I think the question we all ask. My goodness.
Yeah.
So I just slowly started thinking, what skills do I have? What would make me happy? And what is untapped where I know I can start working on this? And if I work on this for 2 years while I still have a job, is it still going to be a need in 2 years? We're moving so quickly. And this is where I landed. I have taken what I learned at my prior job, taking these complicated topics, and I turned that into a very specific niche in digital marketing. So I work with doctors and lawyers and politicians and these very, very highly skilled, high level industries. And I help them like push out their message to the masses so that normal people like you and I can understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And now I am in a place after a couple of years of doing that where I have the privilege to start thinking about what I should be doing as I scale. I'm kind of taking that next step, and it's, full circle back to thinking about my roots and my dad. And it's, it's a stressful place to be. I understand a lot of the things he did now, being an entrepreneur, and how scary it is. Like that's a hustle, man.
Oh my God. It's a different mindset.
It
And
is.
so when I interview a lot of entrepreneurs like yourself, I always talk about mindset because it is one of the mind is one of our most powerful tools. And to convince yourself that you can do this is like a daily struggle.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so was it scary? For one, I want to ask you, did you always see yourself eventually as an entrepreneur? And if you did, when you finally decided to take that leap, was it like, were you very like fearful? Or like, oh my God, am I really going to do this?
Yes.
Kind of thing,
Oh, it's such a good question. And I, over 2 years later, and I still am thinking like, am I going to do this? Like, I have to remind myself like, no, girl, you've been doing this. Like you're paying your bills. Yes. Yes. And in fact, working in corporate, the things I did not fit in well with were how specific you have to be. So it's not a welcomed attribute to a meeting to then start asking questions that may not be in the scope of that meeting. Like, oh, that's a waste of time. We'll talk about that later. Or, yeah, we get it. This is we can sit and have a creative problem solving session, but like, we don't have time for that. So let's just move on with a, okay solution that maybe isn't long-term. And so, the higher I got up into leadership, the more I was running into those problems where I really wanted to talk about the value behind things or something that wasn't exactly on scope. And rightfully so, this isn't specific to my prior company, but a lot of that was shut down because, we don't have time for that. Time is money.
Yeah.
And that was kind of,
they don't want you to get into the weeds.
Exactly. We got to stay on our, roadmap and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really where I started to think, one, wow, I have a lot of different skills that I've developed over the last several years. Building, it started as a startup and you wear a lot of different hats. So, that's where it started, in frustration and then a welcomed understanding.
Yeah.
Did I think that I would do it? No. I really, like I said, I still sometimes am in disbelief. And in fact, I left at the worst possible time. I had just gotten engaged. And the truth of it is, I had been frustrated for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a raise that I thought I should have gotten because of budget, admittedly, like they couldn't afford it. And that was my line. I saw red. I was so upset. And in fact, I had just gotten a different job offer that I was thinking about taking for a pay cut.
Mm.
And then they rescinded the offer. This is all happening at the same time.
Oh my God.
Yes. And my fiance at the time, now husband, said, you know what, just F it, man, just quit. Like this is too much.
Yeah.
He's so sweet. He's the best person I know. So supportive. And he was the one that really was like, it's not that serious. Like, we are lucky that it's a 2-person household.
Yeah.
No kids. We have a couple dogs. We had savings. And I had been working very slowly on the side on just tiny little projects for a couple of years. And so he's the one actually that really pushed me. It was a welcomed push, but I don't know that I can even take credit up front for making that leap. So, surround yourself with good people that can see
important.
things. It is.
That is important.
I listened to your episode about like being mindful and our self-talk. Like, how do we talk to ourselves in the morning? And
oh my God,
sometimes it's really nice to have people around you that can do that talk for you and remind you, like, girl, come on, remember who you are.
To affirm and to kind of just feed you, because it's like entrepreneurship when you first start out is very solo. So it's the solopreneurship. You know what I mean? A lot of us get in that solo mindset.
Yep.
And so sometimes we get so caught up in our head, like, okay, should I even be doing this? Should I just go look for a job?
Yes.
Because that negative talk, and I talked about this in an episode before, like, you have to fight those negative thoughts consistently all day.
And they never go away.
Every second, every minute, every hour.
Yes.
Because you will feel like, this is not going to work. Like, sometimes you feel that way, but you still get up the next day and you go at it. And so to have someone that's supportive and encouraging, that's like the best thing ever.
It's a game changer for sure.
It really is.
It really is. He's the best. Shout out to my husband. And since then, to the second part of your question, I still have those moments all the time, but I just tell myself I will be scared and I will have some doubts and I will do it anyway. Right? Yes. Like, have them, and that's okay, and let them sit there and just do your thing anyway, and you'll prove yourself wrong.
Exactly.
That's the motto that has worked for me, because man, I'm a mean boss. I am not very kind running this show.
You have to be tough. You really do. You have to be tough. I know that you're passionate about transparency and fairness in marketing.
Yes.
What were some like pivotal moments that kind of cemented those values for you in your career?
Sure. I think one thing that a lot of solopreneurs can understand and the struggle is, when you're really trying to bring money in the door, picking the right partnerships is hard. When you are really, really at the beginning, it's like every decision is a fork in the road on who you're going to work with, what you're going to work with.
That's true.
It is. And, it's fascinating, the niche that I've picked. I am working with doctors, and a lot of them are plastic surgeons. And so there's that aspect of, how far do I buy into plastic surgery and versus really like loving who we are, and what's that line for myself?
That line. And
it's lines that I, otherwise wouldn't have had to think about. And so it's self-reflection on me as a person and on the business that I'm building and who I'm helping become really profitable. More so even, I, in the last year, have started working with more politicians. And that has been, as you can imagine, extremely challenging.
Right?
Yeah. And like so incredible. You know, I got my undergrad is in government, and I've worked on political campaigns, and you know, I've volunteering since I was young. So it's on the one hand like such a cool inside scoop, and I feel like I'm really putting my education and my passion to work. And then on the other side, there's a whole other thing, especially in, you know, the year of our Lord 2024.
Yes.
My
gosh. It's a lot going on this year.
Yes.
It is.
It's crazy. And so that's really what has been consistent, is who I'm partnering with and who I'm helping become successful, because that's really what marketing is, right? Like getting their message out.
Yeah.
The second and more impactful I'm finding, and more terrifying for me, is now that I'm scaling and bringing on people, is, I just, you know, I have always been a good boss in my own humble opinion. I have gotten along really well with my teams, and I've really enjoyed the mentorship. But it's different when other people are paying yours and their salaries, you know. Now it's time to, it's not just about culture, and there's price tags on things. So how do you pay people fairly? How do you build trust with them in that way? Because that's everything.
Making them feel valued.
Yes.
It's a lot.
It's
that's
so
much.
A lot
that's a really tough hat to wear, but you know, a lot of you guys do it well, you know, and scaling is what everybody want to do. Let me ask you something about scaling, because I want to talk about the post-ad economy that you talked about. When did you realize it was time to scale? Because I know as entrepreneurs, we all are afraid to let go of our baby and share it with other people. But I do know in order to succeed and grow, you have to scale. You have to open it up. You have to bring in people, because you don't have to do it all. So when did you know it was time? When did you know it was time for you to say, okay, it's time to bring some people in?
Sure. I would say the start of it was the start of AI, you know, starting to see the rumblings of whatever this is. Could be amazing, could be a game changer or a game ender for us marketers and content creators. So that was the beginning of the rumblings, you know, a couple years ago. Very early into me doing this on my own, I started to realize, my gosh, is it scaling that's going to help me stay ahead of this? Is it going back to school and learning whatever this monster is? Like, what is that? And that was the first inkling. I didn't have the answer. I still, you know, flying by the seat of my pants, but that's the name of the game. And then earlier this year, I got to a point where I just could not take on one more client, but I was not making enough money, right? Like, you know, my expenses, running a business, taxes, and everything that comes with it, just the very, you know, nitty gritty housekeeping things versus what I was bringing in and thinking long term, that just wasn't a very good graph to look at anymore. And so it was a forcing function to think, okay, you know, this is my baby, but it might be time to let some other people in. And turned out to be just the coolest thing I've ever done. No regrets. And it's been really, really fun, really scary. But starting to allow people into that circle that are smarter than me in a lot of other ways, have different walks of life than me in a million other ways. It has just made me better. I feel, you know, I feel more like myself, which is such an interesting thing to say. You know, you have people around you that are so different, and you learn more. And my business is, better than ever. So
and you get balance. You know what I mean? You get kind of like time back in your day to spend with your husband, to take off, to say, you know what? I don't have to work I don't have to work till 12 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? And it feels good. And it's nothing wrong with other people coming in who know more than you, because they're people specialize in certain things.
Exactly.
You know, and I like that. You know, I'm soon eventually, right now, for me, it's just a VA assistant, and it's just like changed my life altogether. With this, oh my God, because a lot of stuff I don't have to do, where before I was doing it all. You know, it was so strange. Let me ask you this question, because you mentioned like content creators, and with digital marketing, content creators, influencers, I know everyone has a strategy for it now, but do you see it becoming more and more? Because now a lot of companies are going to content creators and influencers to create these marketing type of viral campaigns on social media to promote their products. Do you see a shift in the digital landscape where we're moving away maybe from traditional agencies and thinking more, we probably can just use influencers, they might come at a cheaper rate or whatever that means? Do you think there's a shift happening, or do you feel like we're still needed because we help manage that process still?
Right. For sure. I think yes to both.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I think about it very similar to what we're seeing with subscriptions like Netflix and Hulu. Like we've just
Yes.
come so full circle
Yes,
with
we have.
cable,
Yeah.
but now it's more expensive. It's very
It
weird.
is. Isn't it weird?
Like, guys, what are we doing? And who is
Oh my
driving this?
God.
Like, what have we done? It's,
Oh my God.
or,
I tell you, I get a notification for Hulu almost every month about, oh, we're raising the prices. We're doing a price change. A price change is coming. And you just
and you
like,
pay it.
I do, with no hesitation.
Me too. I'm annoyed.
Like, yeah, I am annoyed because I'm like, this used to be $6, and now it's up to like $25.
Right.
It has really increased. But go ahead. Yes.
No, I mean, listen, I'm going to throw you another one because I think it's just as fascinating, and then I'll actually answer your question. I find cell phones so fascinating that now, I mean, one, I love it. You know, I'm a lifelong student. I love to have, you know, the knowledge at my fingertips. But now it's not even a phone anymore. Like, we do not answer the phone. I get more calls than ever. Like, those robocalls are no joke. Those texts are no joke. But I don't know when I've last answered the phone, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just not happening. So
it's a text culture.
It is.
It's a DM culture.
Right. And so it's this like very ironic thing. And I think that this applies to influencers, but maybe specifically because of the platforms that they're on. So like what I'm seeing so much, Instagram is a really good example. You know, they're changing the algorithms all the time.
Yeah.
So sure, you probably will save money using influencers, but you don't actually know what you're going to get.
No, you
right?
don't.
You really don't. It doesn't hurt. And it can be fun, you know, if the partnership aligns really well. But it's just like paying for ads on Google. Like the algorithms are constantly changing. I feel like I used to be able to, you know, keep a calendar up and compare my data with, oh, this month was off year over year because there was a push. And now it's just constant. I mean, I can't keep up. And I think that's going to be the saving grace for agencies is what can we help you do outside of those sorts of things so that if an algorithm changes or Facebook goes down or
that influencer's reputation become compromised.
Exactly. How do you stay away from that? And that's why I personally, like, I really, really focus on email lists, like helping people that already have a pretty good list going. Like on the one hand, I can help you build one, but on the other hand, you know, people like us that are, you know, mid scaling, you know, we're still working through it, but we just don't have time to do everything. That's really my bread and butter, is coming in, looking at their data and saying, okay, like I can teach you how to take what you already have and get some more value to your clients and some more income for you. Or I can do it for you. You know, that's really what it comes down to. I'll give it all to you. I'm not gatekeeping it, right? But it's a lot.
It's power in email lists.
It is
so much power in your email list. And I know people who feel like, oh, I don't know if I should send it because, you know, they get so many. And I know people say it doesn't matter, send it anyway.
Exactly.
People
and especially if you are a good brand. Yes. Like if people love your brand, come on. Like they want to hear from you. Don't email them every day with, you know, what you had for breakfast, but, you know, very meaningful things. Staying in contact with them is important, actually.
It's very important. That's where I think a lot of influencers and content creators miss the mark on. They don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. They just live on the platform and rely on the platform when they don't understand you need to move their audience off and create email lists.
Right. So, exactly.
Because it's so important. So let's talk about the post-ad economy that you mentioned. Can you kind of explain what that means and how businesses, you believe, can thrive in it without relying heavily on traditional paid advertising?
Sure. Yeah, it's my favorite thing because, me personally, if I don't have to pay for it, then that's the dream, right?
That is exactly.
Oof, ads, and they're expensive, man. It's just like you
Oh
said
my
about Hulu. Like
God.
we have no power to control it. We can set our budget, but our dollar is worth less and less in all of the ways.
Yeah, it's
So
expensive.
it is. It's expensive. So to me, that it is actually very, very focused on, what can I do for my agency right now, like physically with what I have in front of me. And that is very simply put what this like post ad world is like. So
Yeah.
going in and, looking at your data in a forensic view of who all of your clients are, drawing a line from here's what I have and here's where they're at, and in between is the value I've given them, and then figuring out how you can build on that. In a way, it actually feels really nice because you're not pushing, fake pills to elderly people. You're going in and recultivating those relationships at a very wide scale, and then just understanding their pain points more.
Yeah.
And I think email lists are one way to do that. I mean, making sure you're adding value on your website. I actually am seeing a full circle moment come in with blogs as well, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Right. And one of my favorites, similar to this, like you and I talking, is what you're doing on your website. So obviously like putting on webinars, posting your podcasts, adding those things there, but also backlinking is a very, marketing 101 where I'm sending people to your website or to a partner's website, not necessarily because I'm getting a cut of anything, but because I'm writing about something that's fascinating and then I'm sending them to go, look at the book
place.
or right.
Yes.
And those things are very consistently a secret tool that helps your website rank even higher. It helps it trend. It's like a funny thing that is in your power right away.
Yeah.
And then it also tends to help you get a bigger mailing list, which is great.
Which people are not utilizing that
exactly. Some like keywords like email list, people.
Email list. It's so important to have it. And what do you suggest an entrepreneur start an email list? Should it be like as soon as possible, as soon as you can figure out an offer? Like, should they have a free offer or just maybe sign up from a newsletter, keep in contact with us when we're launching new things? How soon should they start developing that?
Yeah, I would say as soon as you have a story. And I think this aligns to so many different things. You've talked before about like we were talking about PR and using press releases, make sure there's a story on them. It is just like that. The minute that you have a story to tell, even if you don't have the deliverable yet, whether it's a product or a service, if you have something to say, then that's the time to do it. Even if it's hey, this is the plan and it's coming, sign up and I will keep you posted. That's the time to do it. Right. As long as it's not a 404 page, you're ready to go.
Exactly.
and it is so easy. I think, I've made this mistake and, I still have to remind myself like, this is really important. But I would say, oops, I'm so sorry. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm going to keep going. My screen just went dark. But yeah, I would say like that's the time to do it is the minute that you have a story to tell. And I do actually think people are pretty open to wait lists or, update me. You don't even have to say like, oh, buy this now or, that doesn't have to be a call to action necessarily, which a lot of us, I paid an ungodly amount for my MBA for them to tell me like, make sure you have a CTA, which doesn't have to be the case. So let me save you some money. like it's so silly. So that's really my advice is sooner rather than later.
Yeah. I think so too. Cause I made sure I start one like right away and I give away like a free offer on how to start a podcast. And I get so many people that sign up for that email.
Right.
I get so many people that has asked me questions about starting, just simply starting, which now lead me to say, okay, I think I'm going to do a podcast course. So how to start a podcast because I get so many people that want to know and so many people that join my email list simply off that one offer.
Yep.
And it's
free, right? You're giving them something that's free. And that just builds trust. That's all it does, is to say like, hey, I want you to be successful. There's enough sunshine for both of us.
For everybody.
Yeah. And I just love that so much. Like that's, as a marketer, I mean, that's my first recommendation. It's smart to get people in the door and to sign up, but it also feels good when you know you're delivering value.
Yeah, definitely. And it leads to so many other things that you can do when you realize what people are really interested in.
Exactly.
So it definitely has helped me. With the rise, I'm sorry, I'm flying. I don't know what's in here. With something flying around. With the rise of ad blocking and increasing, of course, customer skepticism, how can digital marketers build trust and drive revenue through more transparent and authentic practices? Because I know the whole ad blocking thing is huge.
Yep. I would say, and do you mean like how to like work around them for people that have blocked ads?
Yeah.
For sure. I would say that is, one, making sure that you know your channels. So you really should be on multiples. If your like main spot is YouTube, then I mean, you're done with these ad blockers, right? And so like making sure that you aren't putting all of your eggs in one basket is going to be the key. So, I think it's like 6 or 7 touches in general that somebody needs to see your brand or your ad, or, like there, and that is in a nutshell what you're having to work around, ad blocker or not. And the call to action for us then doesn't change. It's okay, maybe I pay for a few ads, but what platform makes the most sense? So for example, there's not as many people that use an ad blocker for TikTok. TikTok Shop is a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Huge. And that does tend to be products, but you can sneak those services in there because people are not blocking those ads. They want to see them. And so there's some strategy to it. And then there's some, just being smart with your placement and with your money. And then making sure that you're using multiple channels. So, that's the combo, I think. And then really not becoming a prisoner to algorithms, like always have a backup plan.
Oh yeah, most definitely. In the current marketing digital landscape, are there any new trends or changes that are you're excited about right now, or either maybe concern you looking forward?
Yeah, I mean, I know that most of us can identify with how annoyed we are about a course for everything. It's like, and the gatekeeping of it. Like, my God, it just, it's like those robocalls. It's just too much. But I think that there is going to be, like, feels very saturated. And what excites me is finding brands that are not about that. Like, I think that we're all kind of mandating some goodwill, and that's where we'll put our money, is with companies we can stand behind that do, as you said, are giving things away for free, because you want to, and because it works both ways. It's like we don't have to apologize for selling. Like, I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like I'm not selling you something when I really am. I'm going to say, like, hey, I'm here to make money, but if I can help you make money, like, let's do this together. And I'm seeing a lot of that. And it might be because, those are the brands I identify with, because that's what I'm trying to emulate. But there's a lot of them out there, and, there's a lot less gatekeeping happening. And that gets me really, really excited. Like, that's the future that I want to be a part of. And if I can make money doing that, amazing. Right? Like, let's not apologize for that either.
Exactly. It's true. We go into these webinars and always something else that they always want you to do.
Yes.
They give you just enough information just to get you into something else. And it's just like, why can't I just get the information?
Yeah. And it's like, dude, I took my lunch break to watch this. Like, this is not an enjoyable sandwich. Like, this is, what a waste of time. So it's like,
oh my goodness,
kills me.
So let me ask you, for those businesses that are struggling financially, especially in today's economy, what is the first thing they should maybe be examining when it comes to their digital revenue strategy?
Yes. I mean, your ROI, your return on your investment. I mean, having a very, very close eye on what that is. And, we'll be putting out webinars that are not salesy, just to say, that will walk through like detailed instructions on how to do this, because it is a lot. It's not a practice I look forward to on my own, but having your hand on the pulse of what your return on investment is for yourself with each of your clients, ranking those so you know, like, okay, these are my most profitable for me.
Yeah.
And then also making sure your clients are doing that so that you're aligned. Those are going to be the things that help you know who to upsell to, like it, or cross sell to, like understanding your data. And I should say, this isn't just for your current clients. This is for any client you've ever had. Making sure that you have this matrix going always is going to really give you the direction that you want at any given time. Like understanding, like, I think that there's additional revenue to be made, or I have the time to work on something else. Who should I ask about this? Like, who are my clients that I have that trust with, that know whenever I ask them these questions, I'm not actually just selling them something, I'm genuinely asking.
Exactly.
Like having those things at your fingertips are going to be like make or break, especially going into, quarters like quarter four with the holidays. Sales are low for all of us. That's, and there's still inflation. There's still an election year. There's just so many things that keep us from spending money. And so that is like my number one. If you took away one thing, like understand your own client matrix and your return on investment with them.
Yeah, I think that's important too. Looking at that ahead too.
Right.
I'm going to bring in the show to an end, but I want to ask you two more questions. One, what is the one thing you're most excited about with Profesh so far? What has been that one thing you've been excited about?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about the new programs we have moving forward. So we're going to be putting out some free webinars specifically about these sorts of things. Very, very focused on email lists for those who already have them and are just feeling kind of stuck. But I'm excited about them because it is also really, really focused on how to make sure what you're doing is aligning with your values. And I think it's just such a privileged place to be now. I feel really excited to try to help others get there. And it just makes me excited that, if we all do this collectively, we all decide maybe not to exploit other lower income countries for cheaper labor.
Exactly.
And find ways to, either pay them fairly or pay people here fairly, and really increase the diversity that we're seeing amongst ourselves in the work that we're doing. It just gets me just super psyched to see that being adopted and having a hand in that. So that's what I'm excited about for Profesh.
Cool. Is there anything new you guys have that you're launching that's maybe on the horizon for Profesh that you want to tell us about?
Yes. So in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will be having some free webinar series being pushed out. And then we are also starting a brand new program where I and my partner are investing in a handful of businesses to teach them. Yeah, I'm so psyched. We'll teach them all of this for free. And the goal is to help these businesses reach an additional 100K by the end of the year. So that's the revenue goal without, a dollar. So that's, super exciting. If you're a small business that's interested in that, if you've been in business for a couple of years, we're asking that you've sold to, a client on average about $10,000 in any span of time is okay. Then to hit us up, like let us know, and we'd love to take a look at your business, which is also all free, to do some of this forensic accounting for you and help you get there. You go to emailrevamp.com and that'll take you to the sign up page to hear more.
That is so awesome. I love the way you guys are giving back in that way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And there's no catch to it.
No.
It's like we're here to reinvest. We're here to help and see other businesses grow.
Yes.
Because that's what it's about, paying it forward and helping other people grow. So definitely I'll make sure I have that information in the show notes for people to make sure they're able to go over there. So make sure I get that
awesome.
that information, because I think it's going to be awesome. Cat, thank you so much. This has been a really good interview.
So
I always learn
good.
something every time I talk to people, especially when it comes to digital marketing,
Yeah.
because of course I'm still on, I'm on my entrepreneur journey, and marketing is still such a big piece of it. And I'm always learning new things and new things I can understand, new things I can maybe try. And so I'm so happy that we had this episode and we was able to have this conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we'll definitely get you to come back though, because
amazing.
Hey, we need more of this digital marketing talk.
Yeah, bring it on. I could talk forever.
I know. Oh my God. All right, guys. I am Shaunie Sanders. This is the Girl Techno Podcast, and I will talk to you in the next episode.